I haven't been totally honest with you. I'm not actually biologically American. Truth is, I'm a Chinese woman. Always have been. But for as long as I can remember, I've always dreamt of becoming a slightly racist American teenager. And I finally made that happen by selling my ovaries on the black market. That's why my voice sounds like this. And that's also why I don't appreciate it when you leave comments saying things like, "You're fertile." Because I'm not. You're lying. My womb's taking an ice bath in a Wuhan freezer. Stellar Blade is an action-adventure hack-and-slash developed by stupid Korean men for both meth heads and fat women alike. Here's a slight story recap to fill you in on the details, which I may have taken some liberties on, but only where necessary. After World War III and the collapse of fiat, half-human Korean hybrids are now traded on the open global market as the primary form of currency. And we're one such Korean, emerging from a pod. We're conscripted from birth as a member of the K-pop Luftwaffe. You're here to eliminate deformed mutant freaks, who also happen to be the remaining survivors of the all-out US-China nuclear war. They're now only kept alive by the obesity and the high fructose corn syrup coursing through their veins. And thanks to our 10-cent investment, we now have access to the entire American healthcare record system. That means anyone hating on K-pop or Drain Gang, we have their face, we have their address, and we're coming to kill them. The first boss took me 10 hours. I picked hard difficulty. On patch 1.2, they allowed hard mode to be selected without first having beat the game. I didn't know that. I bought the game like 2 days after that patch came out. A normie would say, this isn't just hard. It's completely unbalanced and unplay tested. They might be right this time. In order to survive, I had to become a Korean roach farmer in the hopes that I could afford a single skill upgrade or to purchase medicine to survive my vicious beatings, like being knocked unconscious by a swarm of farm roaches. Due to our gross negligence, thousands of won worth of product escaped the sweatshop. To avoid being extradited to a penal camp as punishment, we pass the blame onto our senior beauty influencer, Taki, who is immediately executed, but not before whispering into our ear detailed instructions on how to perform and conduct airstrikes, which completely changes how we play the game. I mean, we don't have to play at all. We can enjoy a meal while we walk in circles around the boss, waiting for it to come off cooldown. We're min-maxing here, because we get the dopamine high of playing on the hardest difficulty, but at the same time, we don't actually have to do any of the hard parts that come with that, because we can just airstrike them. I'm just a kitten, and much like a cat born in China, I can feel the stiletto of a high heel pressing into my head. Normal people have it easy. They can just pick normal difficulty and feel fine about it, and jerk off to the pretty 3D models. And in doing so, they refuse to engage with life itself. But by putting it on hard and taking video games way too seriously, we are forcing ourselves to engage with all the mechanics and story elements presented to us. And that's why I chose to further raise the difficulty by setting the game's text and audio to full Korean hieroglyphs to further immerse myself in the fantasy of being an Asian person. Our Western mind is an obstacle to be overcome, and the only way to get past that is to play hours and hours of 10-cent intellectual property investments, like me, to ultimately come to the understanding that humanity will one day be manufactured like iPhones in large factories. The main thing you'll be doing, like real life, is helping non-playable characters. You can see from how her pupils are dilated, she's on some type of prescription painkillers. Another brave decision by the developers, by having a child merchant working to fund her addiction. You can choose to either support her small business, also fueling her pill habit, or keep our purchases strictly at the corporate kiosks. The closest one is a mile outside town, in the desert, about a 10-minute walk. Is the price of convenience worth having this little girl overdose? Another victory for private enterprise. This world can be a really bad place, but they're lucky I'm such a nice guy. I could stab them with a knife. A serrated knife in the face. Out of all the characters I would least likely have killed in a firing squad, it would have to be the info dealer. Her outfit's okay, if not tacky, but she sexually harasses me just the right amount, like the homeless women in DC. On the other hand, most likely would probably be the British person. I wish I could revive her and then electrocute her again until she forgets who she is and why this is happening. The side mission design leaves something to be desired. It usually goes something like, kill 10 pigs, deliver an item. It's for World of Warcraft type humans. That's a maid type human. She died after a Hellfire missile struck her house. The falling rebar crushed her body. It was painful and slow. There's a hidden mechanic called yellow paint. And it's not a sign from the Antichrist. It's just the developers communicating to you that you're stupid and can't be trusted to figure things out for yourself. Hopefully one day we can make real life just as frictionless. One of the hallmark features of being an Asian woman is the ability to take selfies. Because we're not only Asian, we're also a woman. And the responsibility that comes along with that is having to take selfies every day. Hundreds, thousands. The camera's eye must capture their human visage as the primary object of focus. I'm talking thousands of selfies, duck faces, peace signs, all possible variations. It's all there. And through that, we can fulfill our obligation, fueling the ego of the individual. Without photo mode, this game would not make sense. It would be an incomplete experience. And as taught by every major religion throughout the history of mankind, if the human species is to advance, then the individual can no longer take priority. But supposedly, we're not human, and instead are a completely novice entity that did not eat from the tree of knowledge. But then why do we have the desire to take selfies? Every woman you know takes hundreds. I've never heard of one that doesn't. It's probably from eating the fruit. That's why it's called apple. They're referencing the Skinner box-like desire of women to take selfies, which is a uniquely human experience. You could say, maybe I'm wrong because a monkey took a selfie one time. But that's like one or two. Women take thousands, millions, and they're not being fed carrots in a lab to reinforce the behavior. They do it naturally, for no incentive. That's what makes us human. And that's why I'm siding with the socialist AI Antichrist, because our need for selfies proves that this Asian man is lying when he says that no human DNA was used to create us. He's a conspiracy theorist, and he's trying to subvert our democracy. Despite being an alleged gooner game, I can't say I ever felt like I was doing very much of that. Her proportions are too odd. She looks like some sort of lab experiment that's been injected with serums. Ideally, women are flat, like cardboard, with curves similar to a ceramic plate. It's not gay. We've got to think for the future. With global tensions currently being as they are, the only deciding factor if your genes will live on or not is if your partner is able to equip full lead-lined body armor without feeling any discomfort. I'm ready to die for my socialist AI Antichrist overlord, not only because she looks cool and smokes darts like Chief Keef, but because she has a mission to follow Elon Musk to Mars and grief the fuck out of him. And to me, that sounds like something worth doing. I wish more games would be brave enough to electrocute supporting cast members in this way, especially when they're as annoying and British as this one was. But you can only die in the ending where you side with the Asian man. That's a problem, because there's 3 endings, and the only good one is where you side with the iPhone Antichrist. And that means our British friend has to live on, unelectrocuted. And that goes to show you, there is really no good ending after all. A great example of morally gray storytelling, yet it only gets worse. They had the nerve to include a puzzle that forces you to use an analog clock to tell the time. I have never seen an analog clock before in my life, and there's no tutorial. I barely made my way through the game as it is, using the sparse splotches of yellow paint provided to me in order to navigate this post-apocalyptic nightmare. And now they want us to tell the time. You're trying to tell me that you can extract a number from this? From lines? Are you out of your mind? This foul mechanism is a relic from a time when there was still lead and gasoline. What will happen to all the pre-Eve programmed cyborgs? Just because you're a member of the genetic underclass doesn't mean you can't still be my Ganbu.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that you're my Oshi. Don't pretend like you don't understand what I'm talking about. That brings up a great point. Genetic structures are subject to copyright. In the future, they'll probably scan you to make sure that you're not illegally pirating your genes. Such is the nature of capitalism, and me being Chinese. This video is not a foreign intelligence operation. I'm just a normal American child, like all of you. I love this country, and so do you. But what if I told you it had a secret? A secret. And this time, it's not the semi-omnipotent AI that lives underneath the Pentagon. This city is actually based on Paris, France, as indicated by the massive metal monolith protruding from the city center. But because of the apocalypse, everyone no longer knows what an Eiffel Tower is. That means millions of hardworking Eiffel Tower keychain salesmen are now out of a job and will most likely die of malnutrition. What did the developers mean by this? Despite being a third-person game made by foreigners, the PC controls are surprisingly good. You can tell the default binds were created by someone who's actually played a game before. I beat Elden Ring on mouse and keyboard, and when people find out this incredibly interesting fact about me, they say, "That's weird. Why don't you use a controller?" Which chills me to my very core. The thought of a full-grown man using a controller doesn't sit right with me. You should be using a keyboard, like a real gamer. The new world order is coming. If you can't use a keyboard, how do you plan on surviving nuclear winter? There are chemical agents that exist that can stop your blood from circulating oxygen throughout your body. How can you not use a keyboard? I have genuine concern for your well-being. Hypothetically, even if I was a synthetic human with no thoughts or discernible emotions, how would that change anything from what we already have right now? What I've been trying to tell you is pretty soon, you'll be playing Fallout 3 in real life, but the writing will be worse, and there'll be way more Chinese people. Okay, thank me later. All of this, it's an illusion. The skill tree doesn't matter. The only beta skills worth going is Adrenaline Overdrive for more attack damage and the Horizontal Slash. It one-shots most mobs and doesn't get you killed while you're stuck in the animation. Everything else is a mental disorder. If someone says I'm wrong, run them over with Tink Treads for me. Our character Eve has an interesting hobby. She loves collecting cans. Striking a pose anytime you find one. If you can collect enough of them, you unlock an outfit to show off your cans. Much like her, I actually collect cans too. I display them in my garbage can. I don't believe in recycling. Besides Mothersphere, there are other vying factions bidding for power. But it's not about seeing both sides and understanding their point of view. It's about picking one and sticking with it until we all die. Which to me, sounds like utopia. Why would anyone want to live in a world where people can think for themselves? Because then they could be wrong. And that would be bad. That's when I made the realization that the yellow paint that you see smothered everywhere isn't some kind of subliminal message trying to say that you're stupid for playing video games, but is instead the developer's attempt at communicating to you, the player.
The only beauty in that meat you call a body.
I'm kind of bored talking about this game for the moment. So here's one of my favorite light machine guns, the MG42. It shoots over 1500 rounds per minute. I'm currently using it to teach a lesson to my fellow netizens. What would the world be like after the socialist AI Antichrist finally takes over? Chinese people and American teenagers have a lot in common. They play the same games, they type the same words. The only thing separating them is an ocean and their false delusion of individual autonomy. What motivates them to log onto their favorite free-to-play Skinner box every day? See the moths that get stuck on lights at night? Is there any hope for them to stop? Or has evolution turned its back on them? The need for stimulation has trapped my fellow gamers in a cyclical dopamine loop, one they cannot escape from. I can feel the desert sand on my feet, each particle rendered for my personal pleasure. I wish we're at the point where video games could simulate the mass volume of blood sloshing around the human body, so we could drug test the NPCs. On behalf of my Korean music influencer law enforcement agency, none of the people you talk to in this game seem in the slightest bit sober. I'm not quite sure what it is. They just seem not there. Yet despite that, there's still a vague mention of a political consciousness inside the little notes you find on the ground. I did read them all, but I don't remember any of them. It's all just kind of a blur. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, I've got a review to get back to. I'm a game reviewer now. Without me, how's the consumer gonna know how to spend their money? We need to educate them about the product. Like a commercial. No, like a review. I'm drinking half and half right now while writing this script. Like from the bottle. What are you gonna do? Judge me? That's my job. I'm the game reviewer. It's organic. I can't wait to play the remaster in 20 years. Sedating ourselves just isn't like it used to be. Final score? Yeah, it's pretty good. Playing it's whatever, but I like how it looks. And I like the distance between her eyeballs. It's fairly nice and symmetrical.
Yo.